Hello and welcome back, everyone. We have a little bit of a special treat. We are going to be embracing our inner present / crypto bro, and we are going to be selling fake goods. We're going to be, investing in NFTs, and by investing in NFTs, I mean that there is a bug here in Victoria 3. If specifically you have transit rights, and the transit rates are the means by which you reach the world market. If this is the case, what ends up happening is that your buy and sell orders don't actually reach the world market. You still get to participate in trade, you still get to make buy and sell orders, but they do not inform the market prices. And because of this, we can sell fake goods to the market. And so this is what we're going to do here as Switzerland. I think that this will also be very instructive as well for understanding economics and prices and this type of stuff, because the opportunities we will have as a result of this will allow us to have a very skewed and very, very interesting economy. So for a normal Switzerland run, you would probably want to go out and gain access to the sea through Piedmont, and this would probably going to be stronger than what we're actually going to do, which is, of course, abuse the system by which we can sell our NFTs. But Switzerland is a bit of an interesting country in terms of a start. You get both your, both your states are going to have this Rhine River bonus, which gives a MAPI bonus, which is going to be pretty nice for you in terms of importing and exporting, which is important for us, because that's going to be a primary axis upon which we gain value, and so when we import into West Switzerland, it will positively affect East Switzerland's prices and vice versa. And also when we build goods, so we can specialize in one good in one state and a different good in another state a little bit better. They're also going to have a decent chunk of resources here, which is going to be quite nice in terms of what we have going on. As far as kind of our geographical condition, since we can't go after Sardinia Piedmont because we need to maintain access to the world market only through transit rights, we are going to be in a little bit of a weird spot. So we've started to improve relations with Prussia, Austria, and France. What we are going to want to do is at some point, we are going to want to get an obligation off of them so that they can't join wars against us in the event that we can't expand up through here. But theoretically speaking, we can form, we can form our Central Europe. I do believe we can grab enough states to be able to do this, even if we stay entirely landlocked. So this will be a long-term, maybe sort of goal. We have used our Diplo for improving relations with everyone. We're going to use it for treaties if we can. It's going to be hard to get transit rights, or a goods transfer. Like normally you would get a good transfer from opium from Great Britain and then send it to Qing. We can't do that because we are gated upon where we can declare our interests. It has to be adjacent to some other place that we have an interest. We're going to go North Germany here so that we can rival all these cats up here. And then as far as our authority goes, we are going to be using it for a whole bunch of decrees in the two states we have, at least at this juncture here. Now, for our opening construction, we're going to look to solve a lot of our market issues internally. That way we don't have really funky trade, and we are also going to get prepared for a manufacturing focus because we don't need to worry about either importing goods, running out of goods to import, or running out of places to export to. So we're just going to do manufacturing all the way. But to that end, we want to get the tooling workshops up and ready. We want to get them wrought iron tools, and so we're going to add tools, we're going to add iron mines, and then in the very short term, we are going to look to put in a tooling company. So we're going to research mechanical tools first, with the understanding that corporate charters ought to be not spreading to us because other people have this, and this is going to be the only tech that other people have that we don't have. I think maybe some countries might start with egalitarianism, so maybe it's a role. If we do not start not spreading corporate charters, though, we will be researching it. And after this, we will be going up to 5 tooling workshops and looking to get things done in that way. We're just going to sprinkle in a couple of trade centers so that things don't get too funky. And something we have to keep in mind is that we have to make sure this doesn't run out or we renegotiate this. Otherwise, we're going to be super crippled if this ever goes away. And so we're going to look to renegotiate at some point in time for a 25-year treaty with some nation. So we did low roll central archives being the NAT spread. We could restart, but we're just going to switch on over to corporate charters because we will get a whole lot more out of our tooling workshops by getting a company for them than we will by researching mech tools here. So we passed dedicated police. We're taking a look at cultural exclusion. We're going to need this if we want to be able to get a lot of people incoming through migrations, because we do eventually want to open the borders and this type of thing, and pops in general are going to be a thing that we struggle on. Right now we're kind of in a waiting period, waiting to get plus 20 to improve relations on various big countries that we are improving relations with, and our first one here is France. That way we can get a better deal in terms of treaty proposals. You see now they are plus 10. They will accept an empty treaty half the time here, and so with this we can get stuff from them. In particular, we do want to make sure that we get a transit rights secured for as long as possible, and so something we can do is just get anything that they approve even the slightest bit, and just keep on trying to roll this an extension for 25 years. The guy we really need to get an agreement with, though, is going to be Prussia. We really want to improve relations with them because we cannot declare on Baden yet. If we declare on Baden, as a result of them being inside Prussia's, power block here, they will be disinterested in letting us just roll over Baden, and so if we get an obligation with Prussia, then they won't be able to join against us. So this is kind of the short-term goal. So we're not yet adding construction sectors, because if we have the base 10, we get to control all of it. The second we build a construction sector, our private queue will gain control of it, and while we can afford to drain out some investment pool, we're really not going to be able to afford, 2 construction sectors, which overall would give us the same base level of construction. And what we're trying to do here is get enough tooling workshops with a reasonable looking economy such that we can slot in the tooling company. We will be, of course, rolling industrial booms in these types of events as we proceed forward, but it's largely just been chilling as we have low-rolled attitudes with these governments. So you can see they are all cautious with the exception of Great Britain, with whom we can't do any goods transfers because you have to be adjacent, and so there's not a whole lot we can get out of Great Britain right now. We could give up a power block embassy, but we can't get a very big money transfer, just 1,000, and at this point it's not going to be something that really lets us add more than 2 construction sectors, which is kind of what we're looking for, and also at this point we are not doing a large enough volume of trade where we can get a really big amount out of agreeing not to subvention or tariff in order to get better agreements, so kind of a little bit of a waiting period here at the outset. So when we hit this 50 relations mark, this is when we are going to get a diplomatic catalyst. So we're hoping that we roll up into something above cautious with these guys. As this happens, we do not. We low roll France, which is a bit unfortunate. We do want to get access through France, and this has 5 years. We tried to renegotiate a few times, and we're not able to get a good deal. But perhaps we should take a look at what we mean when we say that our goods are not receiving or being received in terms of the world market. We're going to try and find one of these guys where there's not a lot of goods being bought and sold, and so here is a very good example. You can see here the total demand here is 80. Now 40 of this is inherent demand, which is just base demand to kind of make the whole thing work, and so this means 40 is coming from buy orders from these other people. If we take a look and we count out all of these and we add them all together, we'll notice Prussian market, that's plus 12, plus 8, that'll be plus 20, plus 12, plus 8 is going to be 40. That's not counting the Swiss market trade centers or the Swiss market trades, which means, or this is a demonstration of, the fact that we are not actually adding to sell orders here whatsoever, or sorry, import orders, buy orders, which is going to mean that when we buy out this merchant marine off the market, we're actually not increasing the price of it because we're not adding to the buy order, which is good for us because we're going to need to buy a lot of this because we are going to be investing a lot in trade, and instead it's just going to be decided based on everyone else's trade. So our trades won't matter, just like us selling pictures of apes doesn't matter. So, we're going to buy pictures of apes from other people, these fake goods, and we're going to turn them into other fake goods, other pictures of apes, and of course, get the NFT ball rolling. Now, if we want to, we can do transfer good treaties, and at some point we will be able to transfer goods, but we probably won't we probably won't want to transfer tools because we actually want the global world market price of tools to be high, because this is going to be one of the goods we are looking to sell, and by sell I mean make fake pictures of and sell those pictures. This might be a little bit premature, but we should be able to get maybe 2 to 3K of income from either Great Britain or Russia, and then also we can raise taxes. We haven't been running high taxes, but we're going to add 3 construction sectors here before we finish our tooling workshops. We have 2 more to go before we can slot in the company, and this will, as the first construction workshop finishes, allow for our private queue to start building. And so the private queue is going to occupy a pretty big chunk of our construction. Our investment pool is still growing here though, so I think we are in good shape to be able to run 25 construction. It will take a little bit of time for to employ up, and we will probably be running a deficit, but we've been over for quite some time now. We do finish up on atmospheric engine. We really don't need railways in the near future, and I do think we want condensing engine pump because we do want the labor saving PMs. But notably, we're going to be doing something quite a bit different after that. We have plenty of infrastructure, and so we're going to go for rifling. This is not normally something we do, but arms industries are actually pretty good if you don't actually care about buy and sell orders, which we don't because we're selling fake stuff. Actually, you know what we want before all this? We do want bulk trading before that. That is going to allow us to trade quite a bit more. We want this for the labor-saving PM, and then we want this because we are going to specialize in guns, as the neutral Swiss, of course, should. There's still some good stuff in here for us to get, but we already have Nat spreading, the additional company, and so this is what we're going to be going for. But arms industry, generally actually a pretty efficient industry. The problem is you can't really build a lot of them unless you're just going to sell fake stuff. Then you can build as many as you want. We do manage to get a relatively painless transit right agreement with Sardinia Piedmont, which is going to be giving us, in addition to this, we actually get military assistance, which is great for the minus military goods cost, fantastic for us. But we just gave them an obligation. It's not going to be too big a deal. We're not planning on decking on them. We don't really want Savoy because this will make France really hostile with us, or we won't, at least for the next 25 years, so this is fine. And we did send them a little bit of goods to sweeten the deal. This is going to make the goods a little bit more profitable for us, but these aren't goods that where long term we're going to really be wanting to keep the price on the world market price high. We don't want to send anything out on the world market that we want to keep high. And you can see what we are doing right now is we are exporting over 100 tools now, but if you take a look at the sell orders, it's just the Prussian market plus the Belgian market with 310, not counting our 125. So this means the price gets to stay at plus 21%, which is good for our tooling workshops that are exporting currently. I think that we have just 2 more before we will be able to slot in our companies, so that is looking good for us. We have added a little bit more construction. We're looking good. Our auto queue is now picking up trade centers, which is fantastic. This is going to resolve shortages for us. Kind of a little bit of awkwardness, especially when they pick up a vineyard too. That's not what we're about. We're about not vineyards. We're about trade centers here. We're starting to get a little bit pressured on the money, but we will go for this embassy here, or sorry, giving up a power block embassy towards Russia in exchange for 2k gold a week, which significantly decreases our overall pain that we are experiencing. And also, we are on the very brink of finishing this tooling workshop. I think once we finish it, we are just going to let the queue idle rather than slot in a company ourselves. We could slot in the wood company. We're not going to do that. We aren't going to have that many wood potentials really that we can go for, so I don't think it's going to be the correct choice for us, at least at this juncture. Maybe if we formed Central Europe and then started pushing up into Russia or something crazy like this, we would be able to do that, but instead we are just going to content ourselves finishing up this, that we can now slot in the tooling company. And it's going to be very nice that we have this manufacturing industry's throughput because that's all we're planning on really building, and so this is going to be really nice for us. And I think that just from here, since we are planning on going steel company, just pure vertical integration up to small arms, we are planning on going generic steel. I think generic steel does have coal available on it. Let's see, where is it? It's under attainable companies. This does have coal as an add-on, and also because we will have steel, this means that for us it will make a lot of sense to add as an industry the iron mines, which is going to be pretty good for us in the opener here. And then we're also going to give them trade rights, and so they can get up and going. looking to both buy trade centers and buy these tooling workshops, and also we will be having quite a lot of throughput on the tooling workshop. You can see the throughput's causing a shortage even on steel. So as we look to add more stuff, because we can add another company immediately, we're just going to go right for the steel company here. And I'd just like to point out, in terms of, this is the only place we are producing tools. We have 300 sell orders of tools. If we take a look at our price here internally, we can see that in terms of the consumption of tools, 120 of that is just going to trade centers. So we're using like 30 or 40 tools, and the rest of it's going to trade centers, of course, but it's not actually going there. We're just sending pictures of the tools. We hit our first ability to get at least a 5% roll with Prussia, so we're just going to probably be bugging them on a cooldown. We are now trading a large enough volume of tools with the world market, such that they are interested in no tariffs, no subventions on the tools. We don't really mind that. Subventioning tools is maybe something we would be interested in, but I think that we're going to subvention small arms, if anything, and so we will offer to send them a little bit of money in order that they might accept this, because we would like to start using our infamy. They, of course, decline, and we will have to wait for that to time out, and we will send it again. Hydraulic cranes is going to be huge for us, because most of our economy is going to eventually just be trade plus 3 other industries here, and the bulk trading is going to give us a plus 50% quantity relative to baseline here. And so right now we are running a trade capacity of 83, and then we just up this, and our trade capacity, or I guess our quantity, just gets that plus 50% modifier. We're going to up it in both the states here, but this is going to be really good for us, going to help us to resolve shortages, and hopefully allow, this to employ up. It wasn't fully employed, now it's cranking up because we can export enough to make this expensive. We can also import some steel, because that's what we have to do right now before we get our steel company going, which is going to be on the horizon, but a little bit slow. We can maybe add a little bit of construction, but that's maybe a little bit too much. I'm not sure. So we have hit the point where we are exporting more tools to the world market than the world market actually has any exports, surpassing both the Prussian and the Belgian exports of tools here. Of course, no one else can use our goods or eat our goods because they're not really real, but we are still benefiting from this plus 23% price, which is really, really nice for us, allowing us to get a much better price on our export, which is allowing us to actually employ these up profitably, because the price is being pulled up way higher than it has any business being. In theory, what should happen is we should be collapsing the price on the world market of tools. The world market of tools, the price should be at minus 75%, because there should be an additional 555 buy orders, at which point we would not benefit from selling. Our price here would collapse because local prices would be at minus 75, and so this would crater down to minus 75 price instead of the local price here of 0%, and this building would be making, in terms of how much we would be raking in here, was that 7.5k, and so the building in terms of balance would be at like minus 19k. Instead, it's at plus 7k. Because people just go absolutely fiendish for fake goods that they can't ever possibly redeem and are just a giant scam. The tools aren't real. We do hit our prosperity bonus here for the tools, giving us 5% manufacturing industries throughput. This is going to be really nice for us. And we have also completed just now our steel corporation. And so we're going to slot this in. It's going to be very nice once we have this as a prestige good, because it is a pretty big input for both the tools and also the small arms. Now, this wouldn't normally be an enormous portion of our economy, but it's going to be an enormous portion of our economy, because that's all we're going to build. Is we're just going to, after this, we're just going to build nothing but guns and tools for the most part. And you can see in terms of proportion, that's maybe a third of the total buy orders, something like this, in terms of what is required for the arms. So that's going to be 6% throughput, which will be nice. And for the tools, it is going to be a very large percentage of the overall inputs. I think steel has a base price of something like 60, 50, something around that. I believe rubber is 30. So the lion's share of the tools is is going to get throughput, so we're going to see maybe another 10% throughput. I think we have an event currently triggered giving us 10% throughput right now in order to get up to this 65%, but that's 65% with a level 6 building, and so and also without any sort of bonus from our trade unions. And so we are really going to be going in hard on these specific industries. Again, the only reason why we can specialize this hard and not worry about anything else is because of the trade, we're trading fake goods. We're sending out 800 tools now in the world market in terms of what its actual sell orders are is going to be 332, and we're also resolving most of our internal stuff as well through trade, where you can see all of our consumer goods are coming in on the imports. I think we're actually tariffing most of these because we haven't made the effort to decrease the tariffs, and I think it's fine that we're tariffing them too, probably. It's a little bit difficult to evaluate with this bug, but notably, as we import larger and larger portions of these things, we also aren't collapsing the world market economy on them. We are, for example here, or we aren't causing it to spiral and get really expensive. We are importing quite a big chunk here into the Swiss market, but the amount of, this doesn't affect the amount of buy orders in the market, where France and inherent demand and all of these are adding up to 262. So this means we get cheaper coal, we get cheaper inputs constantly, and cheaper or more expensive sell orders constantly as a result of what's going on with this bug. We're not running out of labor just yet, so we won't go for water tube, but at some point we likely will. And I just recalled we can get ourselves a little bit more coal as well here. We will have both an iron company and a coal company, so these two together fit quite nicely, quite snugly, and we will look in the near-ish future to be pushing for this additional investment bank for the small arms industry company here as well. So with our two companies firmly implanted, we're just going to add a bunch of construction, get universities up to 5, and then just let the queue take the wheel. And it should be building almost entirely tooling workshops and also steel, because we'll never collapse the price on these ever. We're quite a bit a ways from our arms industry company, and so that's not going to be too big a priority for us to be pushing that specifically. We got pharmaceuticals coming in here right now, and after that we do have quite a few tier 2s left to go here, although to be fair, we kind of don't care about any production tech if it doesn't read any one of our kind of 3 industries. I do think we do want to pick up the railways, just so we don't find ourselves in a bit of a weird circumstance, this type of thing. And after that, the thing we care about is rotary valve engine. We care a little bit about dynamite, but we're mainly caring about vulcanization here. And when we import a little bit of rubber, we won't collapse the price of it, or sorry, we won't cause it to spike to the moon. So the fact that we don't really have access to rubber isn't going to really be a big deal at all. As long as there is some amount of rubber on the world market, this will be enough for us. I think we're actually going to go for labor movement next. We do want the trade unions to come on out, and we want them to come out and play, and this gets rid of hidden malice to trade union clout. If I recall correctly, the two texts it is on is egalitarianism and this, and then we will maybe be able to research railways into going for the third company and or maybe steel frame buildings. But if we pause construction, we are easily making money with this massive investment pool. So right now we're going to go up to maybe 60 construction, build these universities, and then if we're still running a positive balance, we'll just keep adding construction here. Okay, so we have done this roll so many times now, and it has been quite painful, because we actually do want to make use of our infamy decay, but at this point we're actually generating a decent amount of money that we're just going to go for the guarantee. We're just going to transfer them money for 10 years, this type of thing. We are making a good amount of money. We are draining the investment pool at a decent clip, but it's going to be a while before it gets empty. You can see that it is filling out 100 construction worth of stuff, and also notably, we get this massive construction bonus from the companies when they are building the industries that we like, and they will continue to build them because the price on them is never going to collapse. So it's kind of like we just have perma plus 35% construction or something like this as they just continue to build these things, especially the trade centers, because the trade centers are resolving our inputs, and eventually we will run out of other stuff like livestock ranches to go for. But we will send out this proposal, and hopefully it's not bugged, and they have entered into it. And so now we get to start a rumbling. Just kidding, we have to wait 5 years for the obligation to come into effect. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. So we do finish getting in our precision tools, our prestige precision tools, which is going to give us a little bit of throughput on some things. Not an enormous amount in here. We can see only 5% prestige goods inputs for the steel specifically, but with we are getting 5% on the steel from, it's on West Switzerland, but 5% of this is the bonus we are getting from the precision tools company for 5% manufacturing industries. But this is going to be a relatively larger portion of like inputs on something like this, where we are going to be getting something like a 5% throughput, I think, from the prestige goods. Here we see 6%, and it's going to be a little bit better on something like the mines in terms of proportionate throughput, where we are going to be getting also in here 9% on the prestige goods inputs. But importantly, this is like all of our economy right now is going to be into these things, and you can see just how tall this stuff is getting built out by our autocue. We aren't even the driving force of this. The autocue is also picking up some railroads, which is nice. And if we take a look at the trade and just like see what the damage looks like, we're exporting 1,500, which is going to be, in terms of the world market, more than or very nearly double the total exports of the world market. So we see in here, we unfortunately don't have interests in a lot of important areas, so we aren't getting as much trade advantage. And this is perhaps a reason to shuffle around our interests. Maybe we actually don't want this Balkan interest and we prefer a French interest, because France is a relatively large country that we can maybe wheel and deal with. And if they are one of the people on the other side of the strait, which they're not, then having an interest in their area is going to be a little bit better. Actually, you know what? We could have an interest in Austria's area here, and this would give us more trade advantage. So this is something we can massage. I don't think we're exporting anything else other than the tools, at least in any huge amount from our trade centers. Also, the trade centers being picked up by the autocue as well. Really, really nice that we're just getting the full construction bonus on all of these. Look, 60% construction bonus on this, 60% construction, 60% construction, 60% construction, and nothing is stopping us. The trade centers entirely pick up the entire rest of the profile of our economy, because it's a fake economy, and instead we are just building basically what the companies build, and that's that's it. The trade unions demarginalize, which is going to be big for us. They do give manufacturing industries throughput, also workforce ratio, and of course both of these bonuses can get doubled if they get above 20% clout. I'm actually not sure if being a major power helps us to negotiate, but we are a major power now, and we get this agreement with France where they're just going to transfer us goods. Now, normally this would just decrease the price in our market, positively affect us as well, and kind of deny us an opportunity for profitable buildings. We can transfer this back out if we want, or we could look at it like this, where we currently have like buy orders of these goods in our trade centers, and these buy orders should just go away as these prices collapse down. We could see the local price here, for example, for this prestige, clothing is extremely low, so this is just going to go away at some point. This trade route is not making money, and similarly, anything that was importing basic clothing is also going to go away. In fact, we're actually exporting basic clothing, and we're exporting it through a tariff, and so we are raking back a little bit of money from that agreement from France in that way, because we are going to be getting it, we're going to be tariffing off the top. We could even tariff a little bit more if we wanted to, and maybe this also gives us opportunities to transfer, for example, with Austria, where we could look to do a goods transfer and send them the clothing that we are intaking. No, it doesn't really look like it. We notably didn't want to send France anything because we don't want to decrease the price of the stuff that we're building, and that's the only thing we can send high volume in anyways. And so even though we would get a direct trade access in this way, if someone's buying on the world market our goods, we don't want to I don't think we want to disincentivize it, because if we push down these prices, this is going to be bad for us. If we push down these prices by, direct sending people goods, it might give us an amount that looks pretty good on the Diplopact side, but it might not be good on the other side. Of course, this is something that's weird and theoretical, and if we take a look here, France is buying 210, so if we were to send them, a couple hundred tools, for example, in an agreement, that would actually decrease the world market price down from plus 7%. So that's not necessarily something we want to do. Taking a look here, at this point, we are exporting 2,300 tools, which again is very nearly double the world market exports. So despite basically not getting any tech to help us out with economy in some time now, we are just cranking up a super hard economically, and everything, again, 60% construction bonus, 100% of our queue is just rolling this stuff unless we decide to add in a little bit more stuff. We are going to pepper in some more construction. We have been building some universities. I think we're going to just push the EOS here at this point in time, which is going to create an enormous amount of demand for paper, which is going to make all the trade centers way more profitable, and if the trade centers get more profitable, the queue is just going to pick them up, and it's just 100% trades. It's actually just fascinating to watch. Like, I haven't seen something other than company building in some time now, and there's no collapsing the prices, and this is like the fundamental thing. This is what forces you to diversify, and to some extent, you can specialize a little bit better than you could in previous patches, to a large extent, and so you'll see a lot more of this, but this is just kind of like a bit of an absurdity. We also have refined steel coming in, which is going to be quite nice. On the tech front, we are doing most of the progress on a few techs, and then what we're going to do is once we get to 12.5k, we are just going to swap on over, because that's the base cost, and we're just going to wait to natural spread all the things from the previous tier. We've already done that a little bit with steel frame buildings. We're definitely going to go for steel frame buildings into open hearth process, and that should feel pretty good, looking to get both of those like back to back in terms of the week to week, and so that'll feel pretty good. Central banking is also coming at us, so once we get central banking and we get this to 12,500, we'll also peel a little bit off of mutual funds, and so it's just waiting for things like this to spread, because every time this NAT spreads, the price for this will decrease by 31.25 on all of these techs. We are also cruising up on the point at which we can finally declare war on all these miners down here and look to swoop them up, and then Prussia won't be able to do anything about it other than to, of course, watch. It was way longer and more of a struggle than it probably needed to be. We should have recruited an army ahead of time, and so we had this massive stall out and some economic woes, but we do manage to finally nab Baden. Unfortunately, it does look like declaring on other people does get us into trouble with many other people, and the one we have to worry about now is Austria. We're going to let this decay down quite a bit, and then see if we could maybe manage to go for someone who's a little bit smaller, maybe someone like Hesse. Again, the Prussia is unable completely categorically to defend them, and someone like Hesse might be a little bit better, where it doesn't look like Austria has that same sort of interest in protecting them, and so that means we should be able to annex them relatively easily, but it is a very hefty infamy penalty for us. So with no migration controls passed, we are starting to get our very first migrations. Of course, we're on 1.9.6, so if we click this tab, we will crash the game, but just trust me when I say we are getting a mass migration here, and so this is going to be really nice for us. We are starting to pick up some pops. We are using all the labor-saving PMs, and we were running out of pops. This is one of the reasons why we struggled, and it does look like we're starting to run into some issues. We stopped subsidizing the trade centers. It looks like they're almost good enough to make it on their own without subsidies. And this one just actually is employing stone nobody, but I think that is there, we might just be completely out of a workforce here, might be the issue that we're having, or lack of market access. So this should fix that up, and maybe we'll see them recruiting back up. I think that we do have decent market access here, not too much devastation, so that's going to be nice. We are incorporating it, and so we will be bringing it into the fold. It does have some decent resources and some industry in here. Notably, that's a lot of tooling workshops for us to export a whole bunch into nothingness. If we take a look here, we can see what our total exports are at this current juncture, because this is just something we're watching. Still 2,300, that's about where it was at before, but only 1k global exports other than us, and of course we're not exporting to anyone. We're just sending out vibes, really. Starting to be able to throw our weight around a little bit more. We are going to be going for a treaty with France, Power block embassy, we're giving it up. We're exchanging obligations. We do want to be able to maybe pull them into a war, and we want them to not be able to join against us, so this seems like a fine deal. It'll make sense in 5 years, and then with this, we're also sending ourselves a whole bunch of goods, especially a lot of these goods that we're importing. Now, our economy's starting to slow down because we're running out of pops, like really, really hard. We're out of peasants. We're hoping that these mass migrations start to pick up, especially as we integrate Baden and start to get rid of the malice that you have for not having 5+ incorporated states. So this will be our 3rd state. So we're hoping that this will help out a little bit. We might put down more migration edicts, this type of thing. And we also might make our own power block because we're allowed to now. This is so cursed. We have no subjects and like really no way to get subjects, so this is just going to take forever to do anything. I don't even think a trade league would be that good for us. We could even go for a religious convocation for just the birth rate, which is kind of interesting because just in terms of the bonus you get from the actual thing itself, this one is pretty good. Which is a very, very strange environment. We're gonna put a pin in that and think on it. But in particular, we're expecting to see the trade shuffle up a little bit for us as a consequence of that. We do have, as our imports, or had, quite a bit of softwood. It looks like that has gone away, and we're importing now opium. We're importing, merchant marine, this type of stuff, and then of course we're just exporting a ton of tools. Interestingly, we are exporting steel. We're exporting the clothing, of course, because we are getting a ton of it for free from France. But the export of steel is a really interesting one because, generally speaking, steel is a little bit hard to dump into other people's markets. But our steel is sufficiently low priced that this is going to make some shred of sense, I suppose. We do have to kind of care about like trade advantage though, and generally speaking, trade advantage has been an area where we've just turbo suffered in like kind of the aggregate. We have like a lot of this stuff, but we have a difficulty declaring interest. Now we can declare a little bit more here. I don't know why that one interest went away, so I guess we'll pull some around, and hopefully this will allow us to get a little bit more on that front. The point we were going to make is we now have a province in North Germany, so now we can put in interests anywhere that borders North Germany, not just South Germany, so this does open up a Scandinavia for us, but we have to stay landlocked if we want to continue to do this nonsense where we can export unlimited tools. This is going to be a really big tech for us because we are going to be able to turn up a ton of labor-saving PMs. Let's just take a look at our most employed building, this 23 stack tooling workshop. This will go from 20 or 75,000 employees to around 69,000, which is going to be much nicer for us. And this is going to allow us to free up labor for other stuff. In terms of the tech, we did miss micro a little bit in terms of getting the full research on some of these sans the malice. So you can see here we overshot steel frame buildings a little bit, but once Postal Service finishes NAT spreading to us, we will be able to get onto steel frame buildings immediately, which is going to be nice. For now, we're just going to go straight for vulcanization because we will be able to import unlimited rubber as long as there is a non-zero source of rubber in the global market. And so this is going to be good for us and is going to be a really, really huge upgrade on our tooling workshop, which of course is just going to make us pop off really, really hard. Would not be, considering our economy is practically mono tools, or is way, way disproportionately more tools than a normal economy, this should make us have a pretty big jump in GDP once we finish researching it. So we get onto steel frame buildings here. We're swapping up onto it. Things are starting to come together. We have an interesting decision here between going for investment banks next after vulcanization or going for reinforced concrete, which we already made some progress on. I think we're going to go reinforced concrete. And the idea here is not as much on the construction sector building throughput, although this is fine enough, but more that we actually get trade advantage out of our potential building that we can do for the skyscraper. And so we want to get the skyscraper skyscraper for that PM for being able to do that. Also, we decided to make a trade league, and then we changed our mind on the trade league. We went internal trade because I was thinking, hey, maybe like the company throughput is like decent for what we're doing, and it kind of is, except for we would honestly just rather have 25% trade capacity and trade advantage, and so we went for this, and our trade centers are doing a little bit better on that front. This is going to be where we really pop off, though, in just a little bit here. Looking for another expansion spot, kind of awkward, because, okay, we got this right here, which was pretty good, really expensive, but now we have an adjacency with Prussia, so this means that we can actually trade goods with them, which is kind of a nice thing to have. You cannot, if you are not adjacent to another country, you cannot do a goods transfer, so now we can do a goods transfer because we are right next to them, so that is pretty nice. We wish we could do one with Great Britain. Don't have an adjacency anywhere, and so this would be nice. But what we kind of want to do is we want to subjugate maybe Bavaria and Hanover so that we can generate mandate, something like this. This expansion plan inside here, this is the ultimate hellscape of expansion because nothing is like worth anything. It's like 20 infamy for like 50,000 pops and like almost nothing. Like if we were to go after Waldeck, which like doesn't have a whole lot, this would not only are people going to join against us, it costs 6 infamy for functionally nothing, so this is a bit unfortunate. I think that we would want to subjugate Saxony, Bavaria, and Hanover, maybe Belgium, something like this. We maybe even want to take Belgium's companies, although I think we're pretty happy overall with our tool company. Maybe the Belgium one would be considerably better, but we really kind of do like the manufacturing industry's throughput, at least to some extent, because we don't have to build motors if we don't want to. Alright, we have just under 20 million GDP, and we just get machine steel tools. So let's see the moment of truth. How much does our GDP go up by when we swap it? Wow, that was... okay, 1 million. 1 million is pretty solid with before any adjustments, and of course we have a huge glut of it, so our trade routes should increase, so we should go up, not down. That's the wrong direction. Of course, now we are running a shortage of this, so we're going to tariff a zero tariff import. Yeah, this is going to actually take a little while to figure its way out, because there will be, I hope, some available on the world market. There is a very slight amount available on the world market, and because of this, we can import as much as we want. The world market will not hit a shortage because there's just a import demand. It's not ours, it's just inherent demand, and the British market is satisfying it. We side with Prussia to reset our relations with them, and also we declare on Saxony. We were hoping that Bavaria would join. The indicators seem to indicate that Bavaria was likely to join. Instead, the Ottomans joined, but it's not a big deal. With the improved relations on Prussia here, we do get military access through Prussia, so we are subjugating Saxony. But not only that, with military access through Prussia, we can go for the likes of Belgium, Hanover, and all of the rest. So we can just start scooping up a whole bunch of subjects here, and Prussia cannot join against us. What's this? Is this ours? No, not like this. You used our own thing against us. No, what a world, what a world. I think we're fine, mainly because we should be able to beat them before they beat us, we hope. Perhaps not. We are going to try and mobilize a little bit of army. Wow, the Ottomans just kind of teleport there. We're going to try and move around some decrees so that we can recruit up an army of sorts. Let's get rid of some of these greener grass campaigns. A little bit less important at this point in time. And we're going to put in some enlistment efforts in a couple of spots and see if we can't get something to fight back the Ottomans. So we hit a nice bit of luck. The person who has the most on the other side of the tools trade is going to be Belgium. We currently have a little bit of a negative trade advantage. We're, of course, dumping over 1,600 tools into the market. And if we take a look at, a place where we are actually doing some trade for this, for the tools, looking to export them, we will see that we have, for example, in here, minus 28% relative advantage advantage? Well, we got a nice lobby opportunity for trade privileges with Belgium, so we are going to be going for that. We are going to go for it, and we are going to have an easier time getting it. I think we'll owe them an obligation. We don't want to give investment rights, and this isn't something we've discussed too much, but we don't want to give investment rights or take investment rights because we don't want people buying our buildings, and we don't want to take investment rights because we want to keep the prices of all the goods that we are specializing in high in the world market. If we build them all over the world, that will bring down the price, and that really isn't what we want because then we won't be able to export them for free. So this is the idea. We can put in a little bit of a money transfer in order to kind of guarantee that this goes through, and I think that that's fine enough. Just kidding, we can't offer them money. They don't accept bribes. So we'll hopefully high roll this and get that. And now our trade advantage that was 28% ought to be higher, but this is operating through a bug, so maybe it doesn't work like that. And perhaps it does not. We do have trade rights. Surely. I guess we don't get it, which just based on production only is the only way we can get this. That is a bit unfortunate. That was a little bit grim. A little bit of investment for no return. So we hit a pretty big tech here in investment banks, allowing us one more company, which we will slot in immediately. And we will slot in a company that probably doesn't look so good, generally speaking, if you are not utilizing this bug, obviously. And taking a look here, we have the small arms prestige good, but what's really about is actually just the small arms industry is insanely strong. It just gets under-realized in most play. And in order to take a look at this, I'm going to ask that you throw your children down the stairs because we, of course, are going to be taking a look at the spreadsheet. I'll give you guys a moment. Okay, so taking a look at the spreadsheet here, we can actually compare. We haven't been able to really swap everything up to machine steel tools, but machine steel tools, we have 83 efficiency per week of construction and 50 efficiency per 100 workers. Steel, not the most efficient, but it does feed into the tooling workshop, and so we do have vertical integration there. But both of these things do feed into the arms industries. And if we take a look at repeating rifles just by itself, we have 80-48. So even before the final tech, it is going to be commensurate or very similar to the tooling workshop in terms of efficiency per week of construction and efficiency per 100 workers. If we even take it further, bolt action rifles is insane in terms of efficiency per construction. And then if you're on rotary valve engine, it's going to be very, very strong for efficiency per 100 worker. If we take a look on assembly line, which we would be inclined to go on to, it's going to be 114 efficiency per 100 worker. The only industry, to my knowledge, that's more efficient is going to be the automotive industry, and that's with the hyper late game PM. So coming back into the game, we are currently researching repeaters, and the idea is normally this isn't very good because normally you just build like a handful of arms industries and that's it. And the reason why it tends to be very, very strong to have tools is that there's a ton of buy and sell orders of tools, generally speaking. And to be fair, we do have a ton of buy and sell orders of tools, but that's because we're in Nonsenseville. You can, if you are just exporting into oblivion, do this with the arms industries, and I think the arms industries will be extraordinarily effective at this in particular. We are subsidizing right now because we didn't want it to go away, but as this company kicks in and our throughput increases, we are expecting the price to drop, and then we are expecting the trade center to pick some stuff up and the price to come back up, and we kind of see that exact thing. And that's even with right here, we actually are running an infrastructure malice, and so this industry in particular is one where we have the very loud car outside, but also is one where vanilla, it's not very good because you're not going to be able to push specialization super hard. It's very difficult to push economies of scale. We currently have economies of scale 7. We have throughput of 75. But since we can export into oblivion, this is going to be our new focus. Is we're just going to blast as many small arms as we can. And since we have both prestige tools and prestige, steel, we are going to get quite a bit of throughput from both of these. We are going to get 8%, which is a pretty hefty number. We would would get more if we weren't on hand assembly, or sorry, rotary valve engine, but I think that we need to be labor saving. Although we currently have a lot of workers here in West Switzerland, that's where pretty much all of our peasants are at this juncture. You can see we have 120,000 peasants, but we'll resolve this infrastructure issue, and we will research repeaters and take a look at where things are. So right now we're on repeaters. We are the second biggest exporter, but we have a pretty bad trade advantage here. I do think the trade advantage is affected by this exploit and this entire thing, and so this is going to be not ideal for us. We can try and get more trade advantage just by being a leading producer and producing a whole ton. So that's what we're going to try and do in order to get a look at this, kind of to see what it's like when we can specialize in an industry where you generally aren't able to specialize in. So we'll just look to just ramp this up as much as possible, and the price will continue to be buoyed up by increasing trade, because we previously had no trade, and now very obviously we have a ton of trade. And in fact, this is, if we just look at Swiss market by itself, this is an enormous chunk of our buy orders. We are going to be having like 20% of the buy orders are domestic consumption. A lot of pops are consuming these, but the majority of the stuff is going to be shipped overseas to nowhere because they're fake goods. Alright, so we have ramped up quite a few levels, not getting to the full 50 stack or even particularly close. We have already become the #1 worldwide producer, and surely if we were to get up there, we would be exporting something to, or we would be producing something to the tune of 8k, of small arms, which is more than the entire like world's amount. And I think the thing that's like really worth focusing on here is if we look at the Swiss market and we look at the market price of small arms, steady. It is not dipping at all. And if you decide to try and specialize in small arms in one of your runs where you don't have this kind of perverse effect by virtue of using a market that is based on transit rights rather than coastal access, what will happen is you'll just collapse the price, and then the industry will become really unprofitable because there's no way to create sufficient buy orders. Because just taking a look in terms of worldwide producer, there's nowhere near enough buy orders in the entire world to cover a 50 stack of small arms. And so while small arms is a really efficient industry, the overall aggregate demand for small arms is too low to really scratch the surface or to really allow pushing 50 stack buildings, this type of thing, which is a particularly important thing if you want to, be able to really push extremely high throughput. And so if you take throughput into consideration, or what your top end looks like, it starts to make the industry, even though it looks really, really good in the spreadsheet, look not as good as a sort of practical reason. You can see we're doing everything to push throughput, and to be fair, we have a lot of throughput, 11% from prestige good inputs, 59%. That's really, really nice to be getting, but it's not going to really catch up on tools, because if we take a look at tools, we're actually not even the #1 worldwide producer of tools, not close. And tools, the overall aggregate buy orders of tools is like 50,000, so you can very easily support a 50 stack in tools, right? And so there's more depth with which to specialize, and I think that this is a pretty good illustration. Incidentally, we getting to the #1 producer of small arms, I do believe pushed us over the edge to becoming a GP again, which is nice. But as far as like this run goes, I do think that this is kind of interesting to illustrate this idea, and also kind of just a funny little bit of a bug. There's definitely going to be stronger countries to play completely isolated. Probably someone who is a releasable is going to be ideal, or even playing someone like the US and just giving away your entire coast. Something like this is going to be better than something like Switzerland. But as far as this run goes, I think we probably should have re-rolled pretty early on into this run when we rolled relatively low on the attitudes for everyone, because it took us very, very long to kind of get started and get things going. And I really think that we had to beat North German Fed to forming. I think we had to get stuff like Hanover subjugated, maybe something like Belgium, this type of thing, get military access through someone in order to facilitate all this, and we were just too slow to the punch. And now with North German Fed formed, this is a particularly difficult task, especially considering we can't just rat out to the coast and play normal, because if we rat out to the coast, then we lose access to this absurd condition where, taking a look at the market, there's 1,400 exports, but we're also exporting 2,600, and so this would no longer be possible for us to do this if we were to push out to the coast. And we could make it like somewhat of a normal run, but I don't think we're going to pursue this. I think if we really, really wanted to go for, trying to... could we really form Confed? But if we really wanted to push for Central Europe, in terms of isolated Switzerland into Central Europe, I think the answer would be more so restart than trying to play this through. It's probably theoretically possible, but definitely a bit of a struggle because every single one of these provinces is very, very expensive to take. But I hope you found this one interesting. I certainly thought it was interesting, like playing through it as well as trying to figure out what it is we wanted to do to kind of illustrate this. I do think going for the pure vertical integration of tools and steel into the small arms to really kind of highlight this like last industry that doesn't. It's really good on paper and it's not good in most contexts, but it is good in the case of this bug, was a bit interesting. Spreadsheet warning, hide your kids. Just to kind of reiterate or re-show off what it is we're talking about is the arms industry. We got onto repeating rifles. We weren't even on the last PM, but really quite efficient per 100 workers. And then if we take a look at the tooling workshop, which a machine tool, not as good per 200 workers, or on rotary valve, it is more efficient, but we didn't even get up onto this. We were having troubles acquiring enough rubber. And so just on steel tools, it was more efficient to have the small arms per 100 worker and per construction. And this is an industry that like really, really like looks good on paper, and normally we don't get to push it ever because you just build 5 of them and then you're like done for quite some time until you have really, really extended needs for them. And so this is a bit interesting. It also kind of raises an interesting idea in regards to a theoretical max GDP run. So you can use market isolation to like push the prices of everything up, but this might actually be a way to push theoretical max GDP. Probably not, because this would require not having any overseas provinces, but it is very cute. And you could just try and get as many POPs working assembly line automotive industries as possible, because you actually don't care about any of the buy orders or this type of thing. It's probably not going to be ideal, but it is an interesting kind of thought that you can get basically 80% of your workforce working this, which is kind of just an insane thing, because you can import from just someone who's got basically nothing going on for them, as long as there's just enough orders in the market. We were having difficulty getting rubber though, so we're not going to try and solve the metagame around this type of bug though. I don't think we're going to really take a look at it again. Just something that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, hit the notification bell, and other than that, have a good one.